Welcome to EZAnime. It's been just a week since we recorded the last episode.
Yeah.
We have a special guest once again, kind of a surprise. I was saying to people like, "Oh, they really liked you, Huber."
Nice.
That's what I want to convey.
How can you not like Huber?
Good. Like all the comments were like, "Oh,
syndrome. Take my energy."
Right? Yeah, exactly. The spirit bomb of Michael Huber. Everybody was just saying like how much you brought to the show, how refreshing it was to have you on.
Cool.
And people were asking if you were going to be on this one, and I like didn't want to promise something that we couldn't do, but you've seen all of Fooly Cooly.
When you give me those quick 6 episode short commitments, I'm on board. Easy watch. Easy watch.
And this is your first time viewing Fooly Cooly.
First time.
I want to get into that. I think that's a good way to start the show. But before we do that, let's set up what is Fooly Cooly. And as I was taking notes for this show, I thought to myself, this will probably be the hardest what is this show.
I was just thinking, I'm like, what? When you're saying that too, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not alone because...
Mike, I've seen it like 3 times, and every time I watch it, I learn something new.
Okay.
So upon this rewatching, I do feel like I have a slightly better grasp on the storyline than I did before. But the first time I watched it, and this is why I want to bounce it off you, I was just... I couldn't process most of it. I was just kind of there for the ride.
Yeah. I didn't get it.
Okay.
Like, I got some of it. The other stuff I just didn't get. I didn't know what was happening. I'm like, who are you? Like, what is... You're pulling things out of his brain. Like, at the final episode, I think the last 2 episodes did a good job of kind of like setting up
the universe.
The greater arc and like the universe and like her objective and what was happening. But for the first 4, I was so confused. But it didn't matter. I was okay with that.
Yeah, the show's really hard to follow too if you're reading subtitles because people are
talking like
3 people talking at the same time a lot, and just like
Yep.
Like the first time I saw it was on Adult Swim way back in the day, and it was dubbed, so you could still. It was easier to follow, but still chaotic.
Yeah.
When that happens, and I'm doing it for EZAnime, I'll do the, rewind 10 seconds. What was that again? There were a couple of moments in Fooly Cooly where I did it like 3 times, and I still didn't get everything. I was like, all right, time to move on.
Yeah.
We have to plow forward. But I think a good way to summarize Fooly Cooly is it is a coming-of-age story. There is this character, Naota, who you find out is very attached to his older brother who has gone away, and it's left this void in his life. He's only 12 years old, and I think him being 12 years old is very essential to the story. And he encounters a bunch of other kids who are going through their own things, and it's them sort of kind of at this precipice of becoming adults, and they're taking their kid ideas of adulthood and kind of playing pretend, and then they're encountering things that are real adult things, and they're trying to figure out how to grapple with it. Okay, that's like the bottom layer of Fooly Cooly.
Yes.
The top layer
and
is
like interstellar, like like corporations going on with pirate kings and stuff, like flattening worlds with giant irons.
The top layer is this alien girl who comes in, and she's got this bass guitar, and she hits people, and things come out of their heads, and these things fight
it's
other
like
monsters.
It's a portal. It opens a portal through their head when he gets hit by it. Like all these like robots from mechanical Medica. I forgot how you say it.
Medical Mechanica.
Like robots coming out from that in his head. Just like, what the? Like, I can't even imagine what you're thinking, Huber.
I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what's happening. It looks cool to watch. But it's like, I always get made fun of for, like, watching Transformers and stuff, but I appreciate the broad spectrum of all things, the deep, personal, intimate story of Ippo and, like, really focusing on his day-to-day life, really grounded. Here we are on the other side of that spectrum, just batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Like, who even knows what I'm looking at, but it was enjoyable to watch, like, while I was watching it.
Yeah.
So, what did you get out of Fooly Cooly? What is your big takeaway from it?
Honestly, from a story and a character perspective, not much.
Really?
For the first time through, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could have watched it again. Like, when it was over, I was like, oh, man, this is like some 2001 crazy Kubrick levels, Eyes Wide Shut. Like, I need to watch this another time to fully grasp it. But the first time through, you know, everything about it just felt like they were taking risks and just like doing whatever came to mind, the creators, and just like throwing things together.
Yeah, like they're sitting in the writer's room.
Yeah.
Like, this would be a fun scene.
Yeah.
Let's make it crazy.
Totally. Like, there was a scene when it was like manga, and they were like, yeah, that takes too long, and it was like kind of commenting on like, yo, we're just gonna do what we do. Like, they told us to calm down after like the first episode, you know, because it's too crazy, but no, or like they said they were having a conversation about that.
Right, so they do that in the first episode, and it goes on for quite a while where they're at this dinner table, and they're sort of talking about this concept of Fooly and Cooly, and like
everyone's like, what does it mean?
What is it?
Right.
Yes. And I was like, I don't even know what it is. Like, they don't know what it is. Like, but does it matter in the end?
Right, they straight up say, there's a line in the show where it says, what does Fooly Cooly mean? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's something that I kind of want to talk about with this show is I feel like you can take a lot out of it or you can take almost nothing out of it and it's still a really enjoyable experience.
Absolutely.
And I feel like they kind of comment on the different ways that you can analyze it. But what makes it work for me, what makes it more than just like a fun show is when I kind of think through it and I think about what it's about and then how it represents that stuff, there's something there. And so we were talking about it being a coming-of-age story, and you're talking about this randomness, right, where they have this scene right at the dinner table, and they're going, Fooly, Fooly, Cooly, Cooly, Fooly, Fooly, Cooly, Cooly, and it's just, oh, the spicy curry, I'm dying, and then the grandpa's head falls into it. Like, it's just nuts. They have a Matrix scene where they pan around 360 and then they have the characters breaking the fourth wall in some sort of like bus or something, and they're talking about how
the
crazy
scene,
it is.
filming it,
Yeah. But I think that randomness kind of couched in, hey, when you're trying to wrestle with what it means to be an adult, everything just feels chaotic all the time.
Yeah.
You don't like the world around you, because you're more aware of it and because you're more aware of adult things, it just seems crazy. There's a lot going on with your own body, so it just seems crazy. And I feel like they do a good job of tying it into that theme. Like, obviously they're having fun with it. Obviously some of it is just random, but I think when you think about it and what they're trying to explain, like, it does make some sort of sense that they're doing it. But do you feel like it had anything to say about coming of age? Like, was there a takeaway from you there? Was there good commentary? Was there not any commentary?
I felt there was like some sexual frustration.
Yeah.
Coming of
was
age.
at like the forefront of it. You know, I was just joking with you guys. I was like, yeah, a little perverted.
Yeah.
Like, there were some shots of her smoking, or his smoking friend, like Minamani.
Yeah.
Mamimi, just like standing around, little gust of wind, like ass shot, like crotch shot, or like people's panties like falling off in some scenes.
Yeah.
Even like there was a scene where the guy was working on her motorbike, like they were both fixing her motorbike, and he was like had the full
like
crotch
the security guy.
Yeah, and he's just like like panting about it. So, and the fact that the main character was 12, he was like going through puberty and, you know, coming of
just
age,
figuring out his life.
figuring out his life. But sexual frustration was like one of the main takeaway themes that I got amidst the madness.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of very sexual scenes.
It was recurring.
Yeah, what do you think was the purpose of those sexual scenes? If there was any.
Yeah, I mean, when he was involved, the main character was involved.
Yeah,
it was sexual frustration. But there were times like when she was standing by the water. There were times when she was alone, like Minamani or whatever, and it would just show her, you know, crotch shot. I felt like that was kind of unnecessary. Or like, again, the mechanic, like I didn't fully understand it. Like I get it in relation to the kid because he's like coming of age.
I mean, there's stuff I don't even understand about it. Like with Naota and his dad with Haruko. Like, their whole kind of relationship they had going on for that one episode.
Yeah.
Where he was like massaging her with his like beard and shit, and they were like eating eggs. I was like, I don't know what this is about.
And then they were like fighting over her. He like came into the dad came into the room.
Yeah, he did. Like,
and she was like on top of him.
It was like the Lupin reference where he had the jacket. I love that scene where he's like talking about which color.
Just keeps going.
Yeah, he's like, which color jacket do you prefer, the red or the green?
Yeah, there's a like quick little Hamtaro reference in there too.
There was like Gundam reference.
Yep. She was fixing her bike with like Gundam. Yeah.
I mean, for any of us to pretend that we completely understand Hulu is ridiculous, and I think beside the point. But with Mamimi, why she's kind of a cool character is because she is the ex-girlfriend
of
his brother, and this is like the big crisis of his life right now. He misses his brother, and I think a lot of that sexual frustration is to kind of force Naota to act, because his idea of being an adult is basically pretending to be too cool. He just goes, I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't
you see
care.
that at the play scene where they want him to do the play. Right. To play the cat, and he's like, no, it's lame.
Right.
Yeah, like, no one's going to watch this.
He doesn't want to be in the play because he has real cat ears.
He thinks it's childish. Yeah.
If you're a 12-year-old kid, you don't want people to see that and make fun of you.
Yeah.
But he just tries to pretend that he's too cool. When Haruko is a baseball god and he's sitting there just striking out over and over again, he just pretends that he doesn't care about baseball. But of course he cares about baseball because his brother is a baseball superstar.
I loved the metaphor and this symbolism of like he finally swung. You know,
right?
That was like the one thing that was like on the nose, but it was still like a really cool moment.
Right, and so I think a lot of that sexual push is to get him so uncomfortable that he acts, and then you see that manifest with the robot coming out of him. And it's basically like just sitting there screaming in his face where it's like, it's okay, just be yourself. Like, it's fine if you don't get it. It's fine if you're just still a kid.
That's what this show is like a lot, I think. All these characters have huge problems that just keep people go with growing up.
Right.
It's just kind of like, that's okay.
Right.
You'll get through it kind of thing.
A character that I really loved was Nina Mori, the mayor's daughter, and the mayor has this affair going on.
Yeah, his Naoto's dad's like reporting on it, right? They were saying he was like a reporter or something like that. He had like all the issues and everything.
Okay. I remember
they were saying he was like a journalist or something at a point.
Yeah, I knew he had something with zines.
Yeah,
but I didn't know that he was reporting.
I think he broke the story, but I'm not exactly sure. Something along those lines.
And Nina Mori clearly has a crush on. There's like the who likes who gets really messy and complicated in an interesting way. But she, much like Naota, just keeps pretending that she doesn't care. She doesn't care, and.
Yeah, when her parents are going through like that divorce or the whole scandal, she's like, I don't care about it, kind of thing like that. Yeah,
it kept showing the same shot and she would say the same thing, just like, doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter to me, like 4 times in a row. Just,
and then her father is like outside the bath talking to her.
So weird.
And even then she's like, oh no, that's not me. That's
doesn't
not me.
matter,
but I love, like, at different points of vulnerability, how they draw the characters differently, because there she's like, she has a very stern face and she's like, no, father, it's fine. But then when she's in Naota's room, she looks the most like a kid. I mean, they
make an example of that with giving her the glasses.
Right, the glasses.
No one knows she wears.
Yep, and that's what I'm trying to tie this whole thing back around to, is the glasses, because in that scene, she's wearing glasses the first time we'd seen it with her, and she's just trying to be a kid. And she says, like, tonight it's okay if we're like this, right? And she gets so much from him. And then you have that scene at the very end of the episode where she's doing the play and she has glasses on, but they're fake. And so you just have another layer where it's just her trying to figure out how to best represent herself. Which I think is so interesting.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And you were talking about the sexual frustration, Huber, and I want to talk about how the relationship between Naota and Haruko changed over time, because in the final episode, I would argue it goes from this very teasing, explicitly sexual relationship to sort of a mother-son kind of
or like big
relationship.
sister, little brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Big sister, little brother would work too. Was that shift convincing to you? What purpose do you think that served?
The fact that she went away for a while, like the way the show handles time, because it was such a delirious show, I gave it the benefit of the doubt. One, because like it was hard to follow the first time through, but there were like weird kind of time jumps here and there.
Yeah.
So they kept saying like, "Why'd you leave? Like you went away." It felt like some time had passed, and he had realized like how much he actually cared for her when she was gone and not around. So when she came back, I was like, okay, like I feel this moment.
That was like,
and like she was like hugging him.
yeah,
and it was
that's the moment we talk about Naota trying to act all cool all the time,
Right.
and he thought he had to act that way. But when she came back, he kind of let that go.
Right.
He was not afraid to be himself at that point, which took a long time to get to for him.
Right. And that scene where he just sort of like falls into her like a baby is like it all just comes crashing down. He's done with it. He's done with saying it's too cool. He's done getting angry. He's done getting flustered. He just like he misses somebody important in his life, and he's finally willing to like cope with that. And of course, during the last episode, you have a big battle. All of the episodes have big, crazy robot battles.
when the gun like swallowed her up and shot. I was like, that is too badass.
The hand cowboy.
So cool.
In the Brittle Bullet episode where they're all using guns all the time, and she has like she's like strumming the bass guitar and like fucking bullets are
it turns
flying
into
out
like
of
an
it.
action movie.
Yeah, it's so cool. But yeah, the very final thing you see to wrap up all of Fooly Cooly is you see Naota in a school uniform saying that he doesn't want the strength because it's too carbonated for him. Like, it just ends in the most mundane way possible. And if you, like, wind it back around to the first episode, he's just like, hey, this is a place where nothing happens. And there seems to be, like, kind of this sense of anger, frustration, whereas at the end of the final episode, there's kind of this acceptance. This, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with just being a dorky
Yeah, what an ending, dude.
kid, yeah.
It leaves. There's so much more they could have told. I remember when I first saw that, I was like,
Yeah.
I want more.
Oh, they totally kicked that universe wide open in the last episode,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, you finally really get a grasp on the captain and his subordinate and
eyebrow
man, and talking about like the agency and like the medical machina is like taking all these planets over,
Right.
and he's like, you can't trust her. Then there's like this pirate king god and getting the
Right.
power. It like really opened the door at the end. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, you know, there's so many movies and shows that you watch when it's all over. You have such a better understanding of like the universe and the lore and the details. So I do want to go back maybe one day and watch it again, knowing more about the corporation and the Pirate King and everything. Like with that knowledge ahead of time. Because even in the beginning, the first episode, I'm coming in and she's like, I'm an alien. I was like, what are you? Like, who? What?
Yeah, so you kind of said that you wanted to know more. We're getting 2 more seasons.
Finally.
And that you like want to rewatch so you can get a better grasp on this lore. Do you think that Fooly Cooly doesn't explain that stuff enough? Doesn't go into enough detail about those things?
Yes and no. I think it. How do I explain this? So, just having this conversation, you realize how much is being said about different themes and coming of age and the main character specifically. But if you watch it on a surface level, it is very random and confusing. And I think, you know, taking the extra time to look further into it is a choice, and it's also a strength of the show. So I don't think it needed to explain anything more because that's what the show is.
Sure.
It would be like asking Souls or Bloodborne to like give me more plot, like give me more conversations, like tell me everything. And it's like that's not what this is. So
It's just weird because they make a big part about telling you about all that the last 2 episodes.
Totally.
Then it's just like, stop. It's just like a hard cut. You're just like, What?
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I first watched this, I didn't know it was 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And then it just repeated again. I was like, wait, what? That's it?
That's so funny.
To me, the way that I view Fooly Cooly storytelling is that it is very conscious of the wide gaps that it's leaving. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's inviting you to fill in those gaps. And the reason why I think that works and why it's not too vague is because I think they make the metaphor strong enough, the visual storytelling strong enough that it's like, no, like, I know that this is coming of age. Mm-hmm. There are multiple ways to probably like interpret these things, and we could have different conversations about it, but based on like the different factions that you're giving me, the way that these things are existing, the way that these characters are interacting, like I think they give you enough to go as deep as you want to, totally. But make it entertaining enough that you can just bounce out
and to imprint your own life experiences into it. It's like everyone has had the coming of age time in their life, you know?
Right.
Some people, like her, the brother that leaves, it's like her love that is now gone.
Yeah.
And then even him, it's like, well, you like someone I'm close to, whether that's a brother or a friend, but I kind of have feelings for you, and you know, are we filling this void because he's gone? There's like so many themes that are relatable, and I think that's all about, like, the show is all about kind of imprinting your own.
That's the word that I was missing, and you nailed that. It is that imprinting, because I think if you really boil down these characters, like if I were to write a wiki about these characters, Naota essentially is somebody that like misses his brother, pretends he doesn't care when he really does, and that's kind of it. Like on a basic level, we don't know a ton about his history. We don't get any flashbacks to him and his brother, and so you can just think of times when you really miss somebody, or when you like had to wrestle with somebody. Like, if did you have a brother? Did they have a girlfriend? Did that completely change your relationship? How did you deal with that girlfriend? Like, yeah, you have to leave the space to imprint. Otherwise, it becomes, I think, less personal.
I have, like, one defense for about how they tell the story and everything like that.
Yeah.
Is that this show is very much Naoto's story to me.
Yeah.
And it's about his impact probably on the world and the story. Like, he doesn't need to be, like, the main character or whatever the next one coming out. Maybe this was the only part he needed to play for it. And it's all from his perspective. Like, we never get those scenes, like some weird alien goofing off in space or something like that. Yeah. It's all from his perspective. Like, the show, like, a lot of the thing about him is sometimes he feels like there's nothing outside of his town, especially with, like, that kind of fog.
Dude.
Right.
And that's all that there is to him. So when he starts seeing all this stuff to him, it's like we're in the place of him seeing all this stuff for the first time, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
forgot about that they kept saying that, just like ordinary town.
Right.
It's like how many people have felt that way of just like, I live in my small little town, or even if it's a big town, it's like I live in my little bubble of, you know, what is out there.
Yeah. I just, speaking to my own life too, I remember growing up I was an only child, and like outside of school, a lot of summers spent alone, not a lot going on. I dreamed of like living in places like Los Angeles. It just seemed way more exciting than what I was doing. And I just like lamented about how bored I was. And then you get to Los Angeles and it is exciting and there's a lot to do. But there's just people all the time, and you feel like you can't get away.
You miss things you had before.
Home is home. Home is home.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think that is something that the show is saying. It's like, hey, kid, this is what you're going after. Make sure that, like, when you get there, you know what this means. Like, don't try to pretend you're into something that you can't deal with. Like, and learn to cherish what you have.
They make that clear by saying you're just a kid to him all the time.
Yeah, not only you're just a kid, but Haruka says that it's okay for him to be a kid. Like, there is definitely an arc there where, like, okay, we're wrestling with being a kid or being an adult, being a kid or being an adult, and then, no, we're cool, I'm a kid now, that's fine. I've accepted who I am. Yeah. Haruko, not Haruka. Sorry.
Question we probably don't have the answer to. Do we know what other animes were around when this came out? Because the animation...
It's 2000,
you know,
right?
I'd like to put a point of comparison, like if I could compare it to something at the time, because The animation was
I think
phenomenal.
it's made by people, like, I remember, I think Gurren Lagann people worked on it.
Yeah, Gurren Lagann, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah, you can see
so,
Gurren Lagann kind of sometimes in it.
Yep, Gainax and Production IG.
Yeah, so top tier animation.
Yeah,
like,
it was so
the
crazy.
animation in this show is ridiculously good. Insanely good with how much style and variety it has, too. It nails everything it does.
What was it, that South Park scene? I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, where he's, like, talking about hairstylists.
God.
Right. Well, and this is the thing, and sometimes I wonder, it's like, am I giving these too much credit? But you think about the South Park thing, and you're like, why are they doing this? Where did this come from? You're not explaining it. But then you think about South Park and like how influential South Park was, because it's like, no, like, we're just going to make a show about how shitty things are, and like that's okay, and have a laugh at it. And I do think there's kind of that bite in Fooly Cooly too, where it like there's a line where they're like, "Where'd you get that from? An anime?" Where it's like, "Hey, don't take this for more than it is." There does seem to be a little bit of that attitude present in it as well, and you're like, "Oh, that kind of lines up with the mentality of South Park too." But we mentioned Gurren Lagann, and I really want you to watch it, Huber, because I think it kind of
based.
Yeah, there are mechs involved. Okay. Yeah, it kind of has the visual insanity, but I think there's way more of a through line to follow, and so I'm curious what you think of it. I think it would be right up your alley.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, everything that we talk about, people are like, I think that'd be a good Huber show, and then I find myself agreeing. It's like Huber's just meant for anime. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit more about the animation. Was it ever confusing to you in a negative way? Was it ever too random? Did you ever get annoyed with it?
I was confused at one part. It was just like a weird time thing where he found his dad's body in their house or whatever.
Yeah, I had to rewind that part.
Then it was like
what is
him
happening?
on the floor first. Then you see the TV. When he hits the TV, then he falls over. Like a lot of weird time jumps.
Yeah.
No problems like the animation quality though.
It's like, wait, is his dad dead? I was like, what is happening right now? Did not know. Had to rewind. Still didn't really get it. It was like, what?
Honestly, coming into this episode, that is the like mini story that I am most confused about. Like, I'm not exactly sure why it was a fake father, what it was trying to represent. Like, that is one that I totally haven't unpacked.
We need to watch those lore videos.
Yeah.
No, but
those Vadi video.
Maybe that would kind of ruin it, I guess.
Cooly lore videos.
Another character before we kind of wrap this up that I do want to talk about, because I thought he was really interesting, and I didn't. The first time that I watched Fooly Cooly, I didn't get it, I think, in the way that I do now. The commander, the eyebrows.
Eyebrow man. Seaweed eyebrows.
Yeah, he's such a fascinating character, and why I think it's, like, I point to him where it's like, you can't just write this off as random and crazy, because he shows up and he's like, I know all about this woman. She's older women, man. They're just gonna be trouble for you.
More sexual frustration. Like, he comes on to his assistant in the final episode, like touches her leg,
right?
And like she denies it. But again, that recurring theme.
And you have this guy trying to be this big hotshot, trying to tell this kid this is how the world works. And then you have that scene where his eyebrows fall off, right? That obvious like macho metaphor for how big they are, and everybody comments on them. They fall off, and you just find out that like he just really wants Haruko, like really badly. He's still craving her, and so it's, you know, for a show that is so obsessed with adulthood, I think it also does a good job of pointing out how like childish and how base adult desires can be, and how that's not that different from kids as well. So, yeah.
Also Canti, the robot.
Canti!
Robot, my favorite.
Yeah.
Love Canti. He's
Heck
the best.
Canti, the god.
Like, Ben, my favorite scene in that whole show is when they're having the airsoft war.
Yeah? Why is that?
The animation is insane. Like, the idea of his dad and Naoto fighting over Haruko. Like, it's a duel between him and for Haruko. And it's such a nonsense kind of duel to have between them.
Yeah.
And the animation is insane when this is going on. Like, he's shooting like that, like jumping up with like two submachine guns and gets hit by a car. And he's like flying, then he like focuses while he's firing and like turns into this crazy like action scene. And Canti's up there like some sick shotgun doing like rad moves. Like at the same time that the agent girl's like shooting him with like a 50 cal sniper rifle.
Yeah, dude.
And like he gets hit by it and now just like, yeah, I got him from that. Kind of, oh my god, so awesome.
Yep. It's the word that I kept thinking of when watching this show is just kinetic. Like, when they fight, everything is moving at light speed all the time, and it doesn't let up until the fight is over. Like, every single time. Like, you've got them just, like, crashing through buildings. You've got... I thought it was a really funny scene where, like, the underwear comes off, and you just, like, see the flashes of white leg trying to get into the underwear.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Spiderhead, yeah.
Cool.
The kid! Did he do it? He got the powers of the Pirate King! Adamisk!
This episode has definitely been less structured, more kind of all over the place.
Just like the show we're talking
Very
about.
fitting.
Yeah, it is fitting. I do have a structure. We kind of covered everything, but we covered it like
Fooly Cooly style.
all around the map. Yeah, it was difficult.
Fooly,
Like,
cooly, cooly.
Cooly?
God.
Yeah. But great show. It was a pleasure to rewatch.
Yeah. Always fun.
Excited.
It
for-
was very enjoyable to watch.
Cool.
It was hard to compare it to anything.
Yeah. Something that we didn't say is this is only 6 episodes.
It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu.
I have Hulu now.
Yeah.
It's
And-
on Funimation, too. You can also watch it there. And Blu-ray.
Think about how much it packed into those 6 episodes. Pretty remarkable. Like, there is a full story there that is dealing with a multifaceted thing. It does it really well in 6 episodes.
Well, it's shocking
Kudos
that
to
they
them.
announced a 2 and a 3. So
Yeah.
they clearly have a vision and somewhere they want to get to. Which is
Like,
encouraging.
just been sitting on these ideas for years. And they're like, all right, 2 seasons, here we go. But I actually have not done a lot of research on Fooly Cooly seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah, I've only seen... I know Adult Swim is involved in it.
Yeah.
And I've just seen that show, and that's about it.
But part of that is intentional, where I want Fooly Cooly to feel like it's taking me to another world.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to ruin like even just seeing like one cool animation thing that they did, I think would kind of suck away from the moment. So I want to be careful with that. But yeah, that's going to be our discussion for Fooly Cooly. This is the shortest episode we've done so far.
Shortest anime.
Shortest
It
anime.
has been, yeah.
Yeah, we try to hit an hour, but I don't want us to arbitrarily hit an hour if we don't have to.
Correct.
Just when we come to a natural stopping point, we'll move on to recommendations.
Yeah. I'm just really eager for the comments to tell us about their theories and takeaways from the show. Like, I'm really curious. I want to see everyone's personal thoughts on this story because it is so unique. It's so bizarre.
Crazy.
And
It's crazy.
I feel like no 2 people will take the same thing away from the show.
Right, and I expect there to be disagreements, but I expect them to be fascinating disagreements where it's like, this guy wrote 3 paragraphs on this, and then there was a counter. Yeah, but that's... When you feel passionately enough and you feel like there's enough in the material to justify that kind of long-winded response, you've done something, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, time for recommendations. Huber, we're going to start with you, special guest. Not recommending an anime, correct?
Yeah, I haven't watched any others.
That's okay.
Yeah, but I'm gonna recommend a movie.
Hit me.
War for the Planet of the Apes.
I totally thought you were going to do Dunkirk.
I know. Curveball.
Curveball.
Dunkirk's too fresh, too new.
Okay. Still going through it?
People are still like watching it. I feel like people that wanted to see apes have seen it. Everyone else is not going to see it, and I'm just pleading with everyone to go see this movie.
Why?
In the movie theater
Isn't
to
it just
support.
Isn't it just this dumb movie where these apes just want to be humans and so they fight and it's very shallow? Why is this so good?
It speaks so much about the human condition and about humanity. Like, this movie is the one from the year that is going to stay with me for so long. Like, coming out of this movie, I was changed. This movie will change you. I understand, though, it's the third of a trilogy,
right?
Or if they're even going to make more, that it's kind of up in the air. So I can understand if you haven't seen the first 2, like, what really can you do? You know, it's a lot of effort to go watch
2 movies.
2 movies to see a third in the theater. Like, I get that, but the box office is lower than the last one, and that really bums me out because I personally feel like this is the best entry in the franchise, which is, hard for a franchise to do when it just keeps getting better and better. Like, I liked 2 more than 1, but I really feel like this is the one.
So, like you said, this is the end of a trilogy. But
so
and it speaks to the human condition.
Yeah,
they've all spoke to the human condition. What makes this the best? Well, how does it deliver that message most effectively?
I don't want to get into spoilers.
I know you don't want to get into spoilers
too much,
but you gotta give me something. You gotta give me some sort of why.
Like, you know, it's about war. You know, the first one was about coming of age, honestly, as Caesar kind of grew up and kind of became who he was within this world. 2 was him trying to lead, trying to survive. And this one is really about war. And when you talk about war and you have different viewpoints and you see different perspectives of the ramifications of it, the purpose of it, it's just powerful. It, like, again, I don't want to get into too much, but it's just a really, really, really good movie that you will for sure enjoy in the movie theater. Like, see it on a big screen.
So it sounds to me like you have something very serious, war, but these different viewpoints are very well like explained and justified, and you kind of feel for both sides, like you're understanding where both are coming from.
And the effects are insane. Like, the apes now, the motion capture has reached another level. Like, they keep outdoing themselves. They look so real. And it's just fun to... It's emotional. It's just a very emotional ride, like a draining movie. It clocks in at like 2 hours and 20-something minutes.
Good God.
Like, settle into this epic. It is an epic in every sense of the word. The first 10 minutes, you will be like, holy shit. Like, there were kids in my theater, and it's like... There were kids, like, kind of yelling. I had to, like... True story, got up in this movie and told people to be quiet. Because it was that out of control. Like, this is a movie you do not take children to. This is not an animated movie with, like, talking apes running around. This is a very, very serious movie.
So you got up and yelled at them to be quiet.
I was like, can you please be quiet? Yeah. They were screaming. Like kids in the movie, like, Daddy! Daddy! Why are the apes talking? Daddy! Like that in the movie theater.
Oh man!
Like, what are you doing?
That would be tough to deal with.
Yeah.
Did they respond reasonably well? Okay.
Yeah. He's like, yo, sorry. And then, like, the kid talked one more time, and he, like, took him out inside. So
well,
pushed
hey,
him up.
good on that. Good on that dad.
Good dad.
Yeah.
Like, multiple. Like, it took me. Like, again, I'm not immediately. Like, if someone talks in a theater, I'm not going to immediately be like, stop. Like, it was like a 7 or 8 minute buildup.
You went through the mental strikes.
I was like, oh my god, please let that be it. And there was like a couple more times. I was like, okay, this is gonna keep up the whole movie. I gotta like say something.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is,
but it just made me realize, like, this is maybe they've mismarketed this. I don't know, but like, this is not a movie for 5-year-old children. Like, it's PG-13, sure, but whoa,
you. Were making your own enjoyment better, and I'm sure a lot of other people were like thankful that you.
I was with a friend, and he like
something.
gave me a pound. He's like,
sure,
yes.
Brad, what is your recommendation for this episode?
So my recommendation is no surprise. I've had little time to do anything else besides this due to work.
Yeah,
it's something we've praised for years.
Yeah,
we just keep like, and justly so. That's Bloodborne.
Why are you talking about Bloodborne?
For the retro, I've played through every Souls game, and Bloodborne was the last one I was going to play through.
Okay.
And I finished it recently, and after playing through all of them, it made me feel even more comfortable with me saying this is my favorite entry in all of the Souls titles. And if you don't want to count Bloodborne as Souls titles, but it is.
Soulsborne. Yeah, Soulsborne.
So it sounds to me like you had this experience where you played through Bloodborne, you loved it. We gushed about it for a very long time, and then you got some space, and you came back to it, and you're like, hell yeah, this is still like, just as awesome as it's always been.
I've beaten Bloodborne like 5 times probably.
Yeah.
And I'm still finding new things about it that I really love. For instance, this time there was a huge appreciation more for me of the Chalice dungeons and the lore all around them, about how important they are to the story, which I will talk about, of course, in the wrench and everything like that. But
Stay tuned for that Dark Souls retrospective coming from Brad Ellis sometime
Yeah.
later this year.
Every time I play that game too, I use new weapons, and every time I use a new weapon, it feels so dramatic from how I use them. Like Mike saw me playing a little at my house, and I picked up this weapon, the church pick, and I was
never seen this
talking
weapon.
about how I wanted to use it, and Mike's like, "What the hell is this
What is
weapon?"
I
this
don't know if I've ever used the church pick.
Because it was in Old Hunters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blown away by the church pick. It was so cool.
What was the church pick?
Because I'd never even seen
So
it.
it's a thrust weapon mainly.
It was so cool.
As you know, in Bloodborne, like thrust, blunt damage are all factors and all that. So thrust damage is also more damage to kin enemies, so like costs and stuff like that.
Nice.
But it's like it looks like a kind of like a long, like a short, like a lance almost. Ben.
Okay.
But
Like
it's
a
really
scythe lance or something.
kind of like the first form, like you hold in your hands one hand and a lot of stabbing. Second form, you kind of the blade, like the stick gets longer and the blade kind of goes like that, like a scythe, almost like that.
Nice.
This time I've used weapon transformations during combos way more than I ever have, and it's making me appreciate how deep the kind is. Like I know a lot of people have complaints about Bloodborne with the lack of weapons.
Yeah.
They'd say, but my defense for this is the weapons feel different. All of them pretty much feel different from each other, except maybe like the saw cleaver and the saw spear, like very similar kind of things like that. But in like the Souls games, you got a million weapons, but a lot of them have the same kind of move set, especially in the older ones like that. But this one focuses on like, no, you got these weapons, you should mix around the combos like that. You should change during combat for things like that. And the DLC, I think, is the best DLC that's ever been made. Period. Of anything I've ever played, like
You're saying it's the best DLC out of all DLCs that you've played.
Correct.
Okay.
That I've played personally. It's my favorite. I think it tells a story that's super important to that universe, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. It's full of mystery, suspense, betrayal, sorrow, all that really kind of great stuff.
And one of the sickest boss fights in video game history.
There's many.
Maria.
There's many in that. Like Ludwig's actually my favorite boss fight in that.
He's in Old Hunters too?
Yeah, he's
oh
the
my
first
god,
boss
that
fight.
too,
I mean,
dude.
The aesthetic of Maria and how that fight is presented is my favorite, but yeah, actually
Ludwig.
fighting, it was
Crazy.
Like
So
since,
intense.
since I am playing these games and I'm digging into the story and explaining it all, I'm really like digging deep and experiencing things that I might have missed before.
Yeah.
Without necessarily just watching a lore video. Like I'm investigating this kind of stuff as I'm going through it.
Yeah.
And piecing together how awesome this universe is, and it does such really cool, unique things. Like how it even mixes in like cosmic horror with this like gothic kind of horror, and how it mixes it together perfectly. It makes sense why that is like this. And I'm even getting like, after playing this, I'm getting weird theories like with evidence I have. I would like to do something about this one time, about how this game is connected to Demon Souls in some way.
Whoa.
I would love to do like a thing about it and how I think it may be in some ways, especially with stuff, evidence and like Child's Dungeons and stuff like that.
Sick.
That's a huge plus of this job, is when you get to take something you love and appreciate it on a level that you never would have been able to before, or you wouldn't think to.
I never thought I would like see something like newer that would make me think more than I have before. I've played this game a ton of times.
Right. It's just like the type of work
keeps-
that you're
it
doing
keeps
with the
surprising
retro
me, like-
demands this
Yeah.
level of thorough
And
effort.
the thing with the Child's Dungeons, I hated the Child's Dungeons. I got so sick of them. I'm really starting to appreciate them more. Like, yeah, the layout can be kind of boring and super repetitive, which I totally get, but the enemy variety in here is something special.
Loved him.
And like, I'm trying to piece together like why this certain enemy is down here in this dungeon compared to someone else like that. And I'm piecing all these theories together. And I'm like, this, like the whole thing with Fumarians down there and everything like that, like why how the blood was found down there, which started everything, the healing church, stuff like that. It's freaking me out. 10 out of 10. I love it.
My recommendation, I think, is also a little bit weak this week, because my recommendation is something that I'm not, like, I'm at the beginning of, and I've done this before, but I don't like doing it. It's just we did just do this last week, and we have been busy. But I've read the first volume of the Gundam Thunderbolt manga.
Okay.
There are 9 volumes. But I just enjoyed the first volume so much that I have a really... I can't guarantee that it's going to be as good as this first volume that's on, but it seems really cool so far. And basically, the reason why I like it is I feel like a lot of Gundam, or at least a lot of the Gundam that I've seen, focuses on sort of broad political conflict. Not that it doesn't have intense character stories, but why I love Gundam 08th MS Team so much is how small and focused it is. Where, yes, you have this huge war going on, but we're going to focus on this one tiny
MS
region.
Team is very small scale, which is awesome.
Right.
Like,
and
have you seen that? That's the Gundam for
You've told
Huber.
me, yeah.
That's the
You've told me
Gundam
a couple
for you.
times, yeah.
And this small scope of Gundam Thunderbolt, you have just... One, you have these characters that it's focusing on very exclusively. It's not really bogging you down in a lot of political explanations, but they're just cool in that kind of classic anime, classic Gundam vibe where they're fighting each other and listening to music, and it's like, oh no, it's the jazz music. He's coming to kill me, because they can like they're not supposed to have these radios, but they're rebels, so they're gonna put these radios in their mobile suits, and they're gonna come, and then you hear them on the radio and you kill them, and just like you have this commander that is trying to. Is kind of a hard ass, but then that rebel pilot comes in and they have this dramatic kiss, and it's giving me a lot of nostalgic feelings, but it doesn't feel like cheap nostalgia. It's just sort of emulating what I love about that style so much.
So this is manga only?
No, this is not a manga only. So just recently, just in July, they came out with an anime adaptation.
Oh.
My understanding of it is. And correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that they split the story up into 2 movies, and that first part
I gotcha. Okay,
is
cool.
out now, which I have purchased the movie, but I haven't watched
Seen
it yet. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Sounds hype.
So,
Sick.
yeah, it is. It's really cool. I'm going to read more of it. I'm going to get through. I bought volumes 2 and 3, and I just haven't gotten around to giving them a chance yet. But yeah, I said I was like so excited that we were around 35 minutes. Now we're at 50 minutes, so
we made it.
We're getting close to that hour, but that's okay. Thank you once again,
Absolutely.
Huber, for coming on the show. Appreciate your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. Anytime I can watch some anime, because it's like movies and video games will always take priority over anime. You only have so many hours in a day.
You only have so many hours in a day.
Every time I watch anime, I love it. I can't think of an anime that I watched and I hate it. It's always enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, speaking of you watching anime, I don't know what we're going to do
I don't
next.
know yet either.
We've kind of thrown out a couple of ideas. Don't know if we're going to do a
so
poll.
chaotic
Don't
right
know
now.
if
I
we're
didn't
gonna-
even thought about it.
Right. So with the time we're recording this, we're just about to stream 50 hours of video games, and kind of all of our mental capacity has been going into that event for Easy Living and trying to do that. So yeah, we don't know what this next step is for EZAnime, and so we'll talk about that, and we'll let you know when we know.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you, Huber. Thank you, Brad, as always, anime brother, for being on the show, and we will see you hopefully soon.